So that when it comes to the modification, a program is one that which allows any modification easily whenever we need it. How we are going to find a solution? There we have several approaches in order to solve a problem. So when it comes to the bottom-up design, here we are not concerning about the complex problem. Instead of that, we are concerned about the sub-problem. Hello everyone, welcome back to the last session on 5th chapter, that is problem solving methodology. Myself Rohini TS, lecturer in computer science, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. So in my last session, we had a discussion regarding iterative construct or a looping construct, right? So it is one of the programming construct. We know that programming constructs are nothing but what? It is a set of statements. So that we are going to use in our program. When it comes to the programming construct, they had a last type, that is iterative construct or a looping construct. So it is nothing but what? It is a set of statement which will be going to execute repeatedly until some condition get satisfied, right? So the repetition of a set of statement will going to happen until it going to satisfy the several condition. So there we are going to check the test condition. There we have a test condition. If that test condition gets satisfied, until that it will going to repeat that loop, or it is also known as what? Looping, or it is also known as iteration. Okay, then it could be what? It can be either conditional looping or unconditional looping. Conditional and unconditional. So when it comes to the conditional looping, so based on some condition, it will going to repeat the several set of statement. When it comes to the unconditional statement, here we know the exact number of repetition. Okay, so that is the difference between conditional and unconditional. So in conditional, we doesn't know how many times the repetition will going to happen. So in conditional looping, we have two types, that is do while and while construct. So while statements and do while statement comes under the conditional looping structure, and when it comes to the unconditional, there we have a for loop. Getting? So while and do while comes under conditional, for loop comes under unconditional. So when it comes to the while looping, so while loop is also known as what? Pre-tested. Why? Because so here we are going to check the condition first. If the condition is true, then only it will going to execute the several set of statement. Otherwise, it will comes out of the loop. That is also known as what? Pre-tested. When it comes to the do while statement, so do while statement is also known as what? Post statement or a post-tested. So why it is post-tested? Here, once the several set of condition or a statement will going to be executed, after that it will going to check the condition. If the condition is true, then only again it will going to repeat the set of statement. So that means there is a difference between while and do while. When we are using this while, so there is no semicolon used. But when it comes to the do while statement, there we are going to put semicolon in the while statement. So if you look into the syntax, while test condition, then it has a several set of statement. It can be statement 1 to statement n. So, and we are going to close. So here I am going to check the condition. If it is true, then it will enter to the loop and it will going to be repeated several number of times and will come out of the loop. That means the control come out of the loop. Again, it will going to check the condition. When it become false, it comes out of this structure. So whatever the next statement is there, that will be going to execute. So that is regarding while's loop or a while construct. So when it comes to the do while, so there we have a syntax like do. Then there will be several set of statements. Let me take it as statement n. After that, it will going to check the condition. That is nothing but what? Test condition. So here we are supposed to put semicolon after the condition. Why? Because if the condition is false, then it has to terminate there itself. Otherwise, it should not going to enter the do loop again. So this is the difference between while condition or a while statement and a do while statement. This is pre-tested and that is post-tested. There we are going to use the semicolon in do while, and here we are not going to use the semicolon while declaring that syntax. So this is regarding conditional looping, right? When it comes to the unconditional, here we know the exact number of iteration or exact number of repetition for a particular construct. So for loop comes under unconditional looping. So when it comes to the for loop, here we are going to follow the syntax for expression 1 and then expression 2 and we have expression 3. So here we are going to follow several set of statements. So here for is a keyword. Expression 1, there we are going to do what? So there we are going to do the initialization. So initialization will going to take place in the expression 1. And when it comes to the expression 2, there we are going to check for the condition. If the condition is true, then it will going to enters to the loop and it will going to display or execute several set of statements. So after the condition checking, it will come into the loop, it will going to execute, then it will come back to the expression 3. So here expression 3 can be either increment or a decrement. Either that can be post increment or a pre increment or a pre decrement or a pre increment. Okay, so it's all about last session. In today's session we are going to learn about a characteristics of a good program. We know that what is program. If it is a good program, then how can I define that? So there we are going to have a discussion regarding the characteristics of a good program and then what are the approaches is there in problem solving. It can be either top down approach or a bottom up approach. Okay, so this is regarding what are the approaches we have in order to solve a problem, that is top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. Along with this, we are going to learn about programming techniques. How we are going to write a program, what are the techniques can be followed, that I am going to discuss in today's session. So now we have a look regarding this characteristics of a good program. So what is program first? So program is nothing but what? It is a set of statement that will going to give some instruction to the computer or it will going to perform a specific task. That is nothing but what? A program. It is a set of instruction. That is nothing but program. Then what are the characteristics of a good program? So we know that once we are done with the analysis of a problem, that needs to be converted into any of the programming languages, right? So before that, we are going to design a solution by making use of either an algorithm or a flowchart that needs to be converted to any of the higher level programming languages. Right? So there we are going to choose or we are going to call a program as a best program or a good program if it takes less time to get executed and it utilizes the less memory space. So those are the two main agendas that we are supposed to follow. It has to take less time for the execution and it has to occupy or it has to take less memory. So that is the main thing. If those two things wells good for the particular program, then we can call that as a good program. So when it comes to the characteristics of a good program, it is important question. So it can be asked for 3 marks or a 2-mark question. So mention the characteristics of a good program or what depicts the characteristics of a good program. Right? So here the best program to solve a given problem is one that requires less space in the memory. So I have a problem. In order to solve that problem, I'm writing a program. So if I'm writing a good program, it has to take a less memory space. It has to occupy the less memory space and it must take a less execution time. If it is taking a less execution time in the sense what? The processing speed is more. So that I can call that kind of program as a good program. It has the ability to modify and it should be a portable. So if you consider what WhatsApp, So that can be installed even in the Apple mobile, even in the Android, or else we can also use that as a WhatsApp web. That means what? It is portable in nature, that will be adapted to a particular environment. It has that ability, so that if I'm writing a program, it has a ability to have a portability. So we can use the same set of instruction in different environments or in different operating systems. So that is regarding what it has. It must be easy to modify and it must be portable. So it has to take less memory space, it has to take less execution time. Along with that, it has to have the capability of modification, and it has to be portable. So these are the characteristics of a good program. So that when it comes to the modification, a program is one that which allows any modification easily whenever we need it. So if you recall the stages of a problem solving methodology, at last we have a maintenance. So maintenance in the sense what? That has a upgradability of a existing system, that must allow the user to add any new feature, or if they want to remove any of the existing content, it has to have the ability in order to modify the content. If I'm writing a program, if it is good, then it must allow the user to modify the content which is already exists. Modification in the sense what? We can add new content or we can remove the existing content whenever we require. So when the user requirement gets changed, the program has to be changed. So that the good program must have the ability to modify. That is modification. So then we have portability. That is nothing but what? A program or a good program is one which can be run on a different type of machine. So as I discussed, it must be able to adopt its characteristics to the new environment. So that is nothing but what? It has to be run and it has to have the ability to modify itself. That means it must allow the user to modify the content or the instruction or a statement, whichever it is written in the program, and it must be adapted to different type of machines with a minimum or a no change. So when we are running a program in the different environment or in a different machine, it has to take, or it should not take any changes. It must get adapted to that environment with less change or a minimum change. So this is regarding a characteristics of a good program. So now we'll see what are the approaches we have in order problem solving. That is approaches to a problem solving. So here we have a first method, that is top-down design. As the name indicates, top-down design. So we are designing. That means we are finding a solution to a given problem. How we are going to find a solution? There we have several approaches in order to solve a problem. So the first one is top-down design. Here we are going to, that means in a top-down design, we are not going to consider a problem as a complex task. So instead of that, what I am going to do? I am going to divide the problem into number of sub-problem. So there, when it comes to the next level, so at that sub-problem, that will be converted into some more sub-problem. So that until, however, it will be possible. So until that stage, I am going to make it as divide. So it is nothing but what? Divide and conquer method. So divide and conquer method. So in top-down designing, what we are going to do? We are going to divide a problem into number of sub-problem, and when it reaches to the sub-problem, that sub-problem will be divided into smaller sub-problem. Okay, so that can be implemented as a programming statement. So we are not going to consider a problem as a complex task. Instead of that, we are going to divide it into further number of sub-problem. So that will be easier in order to find a solution for that sub-problem. Then at last we are going to integrate all the solution in order to get a solution for the complex task. So if you consider here we have a that is a complex problem. So I am not solving this complex problem as a single unit. So instead of that, I am segregating it. So what I am doing? I am dividing this into B subproblem C and D subproblem. So when it comes to the B, I am not considering this subproblem as a complex one. Again, I am further dividing this into E and F. Okay, so when it comes to the C, for me it will be enough in order to take A, so that it will be as it is. And when it comes to the D, so I am going to divide that subproblem into number of subproblem called G and H. So here A is the main problem that will be divided into 3 number of subproblem, and this 3 number of subproblem is further divided into smaller subproblem, so that whatever the statement or programming statement is there in these 3 or these 4, I can be used that as a solution. Okay. So if you are using a top-down approach in order to solve a problem, then it will be developed easily, quickly, and it will going to commit a less or minimum number of errors. Why? Because I am not making the problem complex. Instead of that, I am dividing it into further. So if you look into the image here we are not taking this problem as a complex problem. Instead of that, I am segregating everything as a different subproblem. So here my main concern is about the main problem or a main task. Okay, so here we don't know what exactly the subproblem will going to do, but the main concern is about the complex task that will be further divided into number of subproblem. If you take an example, in order to convert a Fahrenheit into degree, that is degree Celsius or degree to Fahrenheit. So let me consider that one. My problem is to convert a given temperature into degree Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa, that is Fahrenheit to degree Celsius. So that what I am going to do, so I am going to make it as 2 parts, or I am going to segregate as 2 subproblem. So when it comes to the first subproblem, so here I am going to convert a degree Fahrenheit, degree Celsius into Fahrenheit and Fahrenheit into degree Celsius. So that when it comes to this stage, so when it comes to this subproblem, this will be further divided into what? So here what must be the value? That is, I am supposed to take the input. So what type of input I am supposed to take? Here I am converting a Celsius to Fahrenheit, so that it must be degree Celsius. So that will be the input, and I have a calculation part here. So after the calculation is done, it will going to give me the output. So what is the output? That is Fahrenheit. So this is one submodule or a subproblem. When it comes to the another subproblem, I am going to divide this into another 3 parts. So which are those then? That is, here I am going to convert a Fahrenheit into degree, so that I am going to take a input as a Fahrenheit and I am going to do the calculation. So once the calculation is done, it will going to be converted into degree Celsius. So instead of doing it as a complex task, I am making it as simple by dividing it into further subproblems or a subprogram, so that it will be further divided into smaller subtasks. So once I got a solution for this one, I got a solution, that means I have taken an input. So this will be one solution I have calculated, that will be one more solution. I got an output, that will be one more solution. So at that time, I am going to integrate the solution of all in order to get a solution for this one. If I got the solution for the subproblem, then it will be easy for me to get a solution for the complex task. So instead of taking a complex problem as a complex, it will be divided into number of subproblem. So that subproblem will going to divide it into smaller subproblem. So this is how top-down will going to work. Then we have a stepwise refinement. So as the name indicates, stepwise. So that means what? The process of breaking down of a problem at each stage to obtain a computer solution, that is called as what? Stepwise refinement. So that here what I have a complex problem. I am going to divide this into some more problem, that is sub-problem you can call it as. So in each stage I am going to divide. So I am going to split down the problem at each stage. So there will be refinement in each stage. So if that will be the case, if I have any errors in a particular stage, then that will be easy for me to get to know. So this kind of problem solving approach is also very easy and it will be errorless. So that is regarding stepwise refinement. So next we have a bottom up design. So it is just a reverse of what? Top down approach. So in top down approach, what we are going to do? I have a complex problem. I am going to divide that into number of sub problem. So when it comes to the bottom up design, here we are not concerning about the complex problem. Instead of that, we are concerned about the sub problem. So in what top down approach, complex problem, based on that complex problem, we are going to find a solution. But when it comes to the bottom up solution or a bottom up design, here the solution is already developed, already tested. So you can use the solution as per your requirement, so that it is just a reverse of the top down approach. So here our main concern is about the sub problem. So in complex or in a top down approach, our concern is about the main problem or a complex problem. So that is main program. So when it comes to the bottom up, here our concern is about the sub problem. Okay, so that is sub problem will be already tested and it is already refined and it is error free. Okay, so based on our requirement, we are going to choose a solution. Getting? So there in top down approach, based on our problem, we are going to find a solution. Already here solutions are made and based on our requirement, we are going to find a solution. It is like what? It is like just an assembling of a computer. Already we have manufactured mouse and keyboard is already manufactured. So based on that solution or whatever the accessories that I require, so I am going to just pick it out and I am going to assemble. So that is regarding what? Bottom up design. It is just a reverse of top down approach. So in bottom up design, this method in which system details are developed first, so which is followed by major process. So here the main concern is about what? The sub problems or a sub modules. So there that will be tested first and it will get error free. So after that they have a concern over the major process. So this is just a reverse of what? Top down approach or a top down design. So this process will going to start with identification of a set of modules, whether they have already available or to be constructed. For example, I have a several set of sub problems. So I am going to check each sub problem. After that, I am going to test it out whether it is error free or it needs any of the alteration. If it is required, then I am going to make for that particular sub problem. So I have a complex problem. So for this complex problem, I am going to choose this first one, second one, third one and fourth one. So based on my requirement, I am going to choose. So here I am going to choose 1, 3 and 4. So there is no mandatory to have a second one or a third one. So based on my requirement, I am going to choose the solution which is already available. So that is regarding what? Bottom up design. An attempt is made to combine the lower level model to form a high module or a higher level. So here the basic concern is about what? Lower level modules, that is also known as what? Sub-programs. So after that we are going to form a major one, that is complex problem. So this kind of approach is mainly used in the C++ programming, that is object-oriented programming is a bottom-up design. So if you consider a real-time example for top-down and bottom-up approach, it is just like what? Ordering some food in the hotel and giving the orders to the catering. So when it comes to the hotel, whether it is a top-down or a bottom-up approach, so there when it comes to the hotel, it is a bottom-up approach. So why? Because already we have a menu, right? So already they have prepared, they have tested, everything has been done. So based on my requirement, I am going to choose some of the food items. That is regarding bottom up. When it comes to the catering, so I have several set of menus in my mind. So based on that, I am going to give the sub modules. Then they are going to prepare and they are going to serve. That is regarding what? Top down approach, right? So that is top down approach and this is bottom up approach. Okay, so that is just a general real-time example in order to make you understand whether it is top-down or a bottom-up approach. So next we have programming techniques. So we all know that when we are doing programming, it has to follow several characteristics as a good programming. It has to have modification and it must be portable and it has a less memory space. It has to take less memory space along with less execution time. So here we have several programming techniques. That means how the programming can be done. So that is one method, unstructured programming. As the name indicates, unstructured. So there is no structure. We are not going to follow a restrictive method. So in this learning stage by writing, that means when we are learning a programming, at the time what we are going to do, we are going to write a small and simple program without planning any of the things. So without planning the output, we are just going to write some small and simple program. That kind of programming is known as what? Unstructured programming. Okay. So it is mainly based on the main program data. So if any changes needs to be takes place, then it has to take place in the main program only. So unstructured in the sense what? It is going, that means we are going to write a program without any plans and without any planning. That will going to lead to a unstructured programming. So here we are not making any of the plans. That means the program has to be like this. It is just like what? Trial and error. So trial and error method can be called as what? Unstructured programming. Why? Because I doesn't know what exactly it will going to lead. So that I'm going to write a program and it will get erased, and it has a trial and error method. So next we have what? Procedural programming. What is this procedural programming? When it comes to the procedural programming, make you understand that it is nothing but functions. So when it comes to the function, it is a set of statement that is used in order to perform a particular task. Okay. So there we have to consider two functions, that is calling function and call function. Calling function and call function. Okay. So in calling function, when this control is in the calling function, there I am going to send some parameters or variable to the called function. At that time what I am doing? I am calling the function. So when I am calling the function, at that time control will be moved from calling function to the called function. At that time it will get invoked, and whatever the set of statement is there, that will get executed and it will going to give me several result, that is output. So when it got the output, again the control will return back to this calling function. So calling function, called function. So in calling function, I am going to send several variables which are required for the processing. When the control reaches from calling function to the called function, in called function, it will going to use that variables and it will going to perform the operation, and it sends the result back to the main function. That is nothing but what? Calling function. So here this kind of methods is nothing but what? Procedural programming. So this method allow us to combine the returning sequence of statement into one single place. So here a function can have more than, that means a program can have more than one function. If it is a one calling function, that let me take this as a one function and let me take these two as a some more functions, right? So what it is doing? It is going to calculate itself in the separate place and it will going to return a result into a particular place, or what it will going to return a sequence of statement into a single place. That place is nothing but what? Calling function. That is also known as main function. So that is regarding procedural programming. A procedure call is used to invoke the procedure. So as I discussed, calling in the sense what? We are making it active. So I am making the function active. Function is nothing but set of instruction that is used to perform a particular task. It has to perform a particular task and it has to return some value back to the main function. So, after the sequence is processed, the flow control proceeds right after the position where the call is made. So, where the call was made, that was made in the calling function. So, control will be moved to called, and in called function, it will get executed and the result will come back to again to the calling function, so that the procedures or a sub procedures. So it can be either a main function or a sub function, can now return as more structured and error free. So if I am going to consider a program into number of several function, I can use that function in a various program and it will be less error. So whatever the bug is there in each function, that can be identified easily, and that will be structured. Structured in the sense what? We have a plan and we are for particular purpose we are writing that program. So if you look into here we have a main program data that will be divided into number of procedures. So when it is divided into number of procedures, it will going to perform a particular task and it will going to send the result back to the main function. That is regarding procedural programming. Next we have a structured programming. Unstructured in the sense what? Trial and error method. So based on that means without any planning we are just going to write a program. When it comes to the structured programming, here you have to follow the several set of syntax or a set of rules, then you have to write a program, right? So structured programming is a method of programming by using the following type of code structure. So what are the programming construct there I have discussed? That is sequential and selection, then we have a iteration, then we have a subroutines, that is also known as what? Functions. So when it comes to the sequential construct or a sequential programming, there we are going to use either input statement, output statement or a assignment statement. So when it comes to the selection, so what are the selection statement that I have discussed? If else, and then nested if else if. So we have another multiple case selection. So that is regarding selection. When it comes to the iteration or a looping, while, do while and for. So subroutines are nothing but function that is mainly used to perform a particular task. So these are the methods that I can use in order to write a program. So that kind of program is nothing but what? See, that is structured programming. Next we have modular programming. So this is somehow like top-down approach. So here I'm not going to consider a problem as a single module. Instead of single task or a single problem, we are not going to consider this as a single module. So instead of that, it will be further divided into several sub-modules. So we are going to find a solution for each sub-modules and it will get attached to the solution for the complex one. That is the process of splitting the lengthier and complex program into number of smaller units. So that units are nothing but what? Modules. So the approach that we are going to use in order to split the complex problem or a lengthier problem into number of sub-problem or a sub-modules, that approach is known as what? Modularization. So modularization and a programming with such modular is called as modular programming. So the method that we are going to use in order to split the problem or a lengthier problem into number of sub-modules are called as what? Modularization. So we are going to use that as a programming and we are going to write a program in order to make it as a simpler one. That kind of program is known as what? Modular programming, and that approach is nothing but modular approach. Okay, so this technique provides a grouping of procedures which are common functionality into separate modules. So based on its characteristics or based on its resultant, we are going to make it as a sub-modules. So whenever that module is required in order to solve the problem, then we can pick it up. Okay, so then what are the advantages of this modular approach? So it has a reusability. If you look into this image, here I have a main program data and I have several modules. Okay, so this will be divided into several set of modules. What I am doing? I am modularizing. So that is modularization. If I am using the modularization, that kind of programming is nothing but what? Modular programming, and that approach is modular approach. So in a main programming data, that will be divided into several sub-modules or a modules or a sub programs or a sub problem. So I have a several set of data along with the procedures. So procedures are nothing but what? Functions. So this module is meant for particular purpose and this module is meant for particular purpose. So this will be separate. For some more instant, I require only module 2 in order to solve my problem. At that time, what I am going to do, instead of taking this module 1, I am just go with this module 2. So that will going to make it as reusable. Then debugging is easier. Why debugging is easier? If there any errors occurs in each module, then no need to search about or no need to test all the modules. Instead of that, if I got an error in the module 2, then I am going to make a correction or I am going to check that condition only in the module 2, not in any other module. So that debugging is will be easier and it has a built-in library. Built-in library in the sense what? It has a built-in libraries. So we can just use or we can just include in our program and we can use that. Then it has a portability. It will going to adapt to new environment with less change or a minimum change. So these are the programming techniques that we can use in order to write a program. I hope you understood with today's session as well as this problem solving methodology. So I'm going to meet you in the next session with new chapter. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.